I'm going to quote some things from the book that I really liked, some of the tweets that you have as well before we go. Carve your ethics in stone, but write your opinions in sand. I fucking love that. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Changing your mind is a sign of intelligence unless it is changing your mind on an ethical decision. And so in order to know when it's okay to change your mind versus not, you have to have a framework. And so my framework is, if it's an ethical decision throughout your entire life, regardless of the situation, you should always make the same decision. If it is a opinion-based decision, then you should evaluate all of the facts and then make a decision, and changing your mind should be derived by what the current facts are, regardless of what the past was. And so understanding the difference between those two things is pretty important, because what you don't want to do is be very rigid in your thinking of your opinions and then constantly flip-flopping on your ethical beliefs, right? And so again, carving your ethics in stone, they don't move. But writing your opinions in sand almost on a daily basis, they wash away, and you got to rewrite them. And so really understanding the difference between those two things is important.
Yeah, I think there's a few things there, because if you can carve your ethics in stone, there's just less things for you to even think about when you're bombarded by all of these decisions, what project and what product decision you need to make. It's just, there's less decisions, first of all. But I think the key thing is that most people aren't willing to change their opinions. That's really where people get stuck, right? They're not afraid. They're afraid to, from a political perspective, like look at the other side, or from someone else's perspective that they may not like. They're not willing to go beyond the confines of their own world, right? So I think that's a key one. It's like people are just not willing to, especially with like social media algorithms today, they're not able to see the other side of things.
Well, it's also, are you willing to change your mind in public? And are you willing to hold to your ethics in public? Right? So the public component magnifies both of those.
Yeah.
And so it's very hard for people to change their mind publicly, take a very hard stance on something, get new information, now change. Because you know that there's going to be pain. But are you pursuing truth, or are you trying to appease a random follower on the internet?
Yeah.
It's hard. Probably more hard. Are you willing to stand up for your ethics in public, even if it will bring you personal pain? Very hard to do. And so those two things in private are hard enough. Doing them in public is that on steroids.
What's something you've had to change your mind about in public?
There's a lot of stuff I changed my mind about, but I feel like I change my mind like almost every week now.
Today I changed my mind?
Yeah. No, I think that, a good example is like something like Bitcoin, where, I used to be of the belief that Bitcoin is going to be this global reserve currency in, 10 years. Like, it's just going to happen. Now I'm of the belief that I think Bitcoin is going to be the greatest store of value available to people with internet access. And it's going to serve as this great store of value and continue to compound in dollar terms at an attractive rate. But you shouldn't spend your Bitcoin. So if you go back, you will literally see me have tweets that are like, you should spend your Bitcoin. And then you'll see tweets that are like, you should not spend your Bitcoin. Those two things both can't be true, right?
Sure.
And so it's just this belief that like, oh, wait a second, like I understand it more, right? And so, it's kind of like if you do 100 hours of work, you kind of sort of understand something. If you do 1,000 hours, now you feel like actually you're in danger, because like now you're like, oh, I'm an expert. And it's not until you do 10,000 do you look back and you say, hey, when I only had 1,000 hours of experience, how stupid was I?
Yeah.
Right. And so like you got to kind of continue that pursuit and not take your foot off the gas and, kind of pursuing curiosity.
Yeah, and I think most people would probably delete those tweets, but the fact that you're able to, despite how painful it is, like to be transparent with your opinions.
There's a lot of tweets that still exist, and every once in a while people will go and they'll find them, and they, I always love it. They think they're like Lewis and Clark. They like found some new tweet that no one's ever seen before. I'm like, guys, that tweet has literally gone viral again and again and again, and I'm going to leave it there. Yeah. Like that, on that day, at that time, that's what I believed. By the way, I was wrong. And sometimes I'll just like respond. I'll be like, yeah, that was really stupid, thought process. And people are like mind blown. They're like, you are willing to say publicly that something you said in the past was stupid. I'm like, objectively it was stupid, right? Like this isn't my opinion. If you look at this thing, that was dumb. And so it's just like, am I trying to be intellectually honest with myself, or am I trying to appease some random person on the internet? And so I think that that's really the thing is I almost look at the public magnification as it holds me honest.
Yeah, I respect that. I think a lot of people, the right people will respect that, right? I think that's really matters.
Well, or they'll just be like, look at this dumbass. What did he believe in 2016, right?
Come on.